Season 4, AI and Jobs. Episode 2, Why AI will not eliminate work, but will cheapen it. One. Introduction. The real fear is not no jobs. When people fear AI, they often imagine a world with no work. No jobs. No salaries. No purpose. It is a powerful image, and it spreads quickly because it is simple. But the future is likely to be stranger and more uncomfortable than that. AI will not eliminate work. It will cheapen it. That means more people may still have jobs, but those jobs may pay less, demand more, offer less security, and provide less dignity. This is not a prediction based on science fiction. It follows from how markets respond to automation, how businesses seek profit, and how technology changes bargaining power. In this episode, we will explain what cheapening work really means, why it is already happening, and why focusing only on job loss misses the deeper transformation. 2. What cheapening means. Cheapening work does not only mean lower wages. It can mean several related changes. 1. Pay declines relative to productivity, meaning workers produce more but earn about the same. 2. Jobs become more precarious, with fewer benefits and less stability. 3. Skill requirements decline, reducing bargaining power. 4. Work becomes more monitored and controlled, increasing pressure and reducing autonomy. 5. Work becomes more interchangeable, replacing craft with compliance. 6. Work becomes more fragmented, turning careers into short tasks. In short, cheapening means the value of human labor declines in the eyes of employers and markets. The work still exists, but it is treated as less valuable. 3. Why work does not disappear even with automation. A common misunderstanding is that if machines can do a task, humans will no longer do it. In reality, automation does not always remove work. It often changes the shape of work. Businesses still need people to handle exceptions, manage relationships, maintain systems, provide accountability, fill gaps when technology fails, perform physical tasks in messy environments, deal with human emotions and conflict. Also, demand grows. When tasks become cheaper to perform, more of them are performed. If customer service becomes cheaper, companies offer more support channels. If content creation becomes cheaper, more content is produced. If analysis becomes cheaper, more reports are generated. So work often shifts rather than disappears. But shifting work is not the same as valuing workers. 4. The key mechanism, bargaining power. Wages are not determined by how hard a job feels. They are determined by bargaining power. If a worker has leverage, they can negotiate better pay and conditions. If the employer has leverage, the employer sets terms. AI changes leverage. Even when a worker is not replaced, the existence of automation changes negotiations. If an employer can credibly say, "This role can be automated," workers lose power. They may accept smaller raises. They may accept more work. They may accept worse conditions. AI does not have to replace you to weaken your position. It only needs to be a plausible alternative. 5. AI does not replace the worker, it replaces the price. In many cases, AI does not remove the job. It changes the price of the job. Here is how. If a task becomes easier or faster because AI assists, employers may conclude the labor is less scarce. If labor is less scarce, it is cheaper. This happens even if the worker is still needed. The job becomes less skilled in the eyes of the market because the system provides scaffolding. The worker is treated as an operator rather than a specialist. And operators are cheaper than specialists. So AI can reduce wages not by replacing workers, but by lowering the perceived value of what they do. 6. The baseline rises effect. AI tools raise baseline performance. A mediocre output becomes easier to produce. A decent email becomes automatic. A basic report becomes quick. A standard design becomes accessible. This seems beneficial, but it triggers a predictable response. Employers raise expectations. If AI makes it easier to produce more, producing more becomes the minimum. The worker is not rewarded for higher output. The worker is expected to deliver higher output. So productivity becomes pressure. What used to be a strong performance becomes normal. What used to be normal becomes insufficient. This is one of the clearest ways AI cheapens work without removing it. 7. The shift from craft to template. Many jobs contain craft. Not always artistic craft, but practical craft. Knowing how to handle edge cases. Knowing what matters. Knowing which detail is important. Knowing how to communicate with people. AI tools encourage templating. They provide standard structures. They generate predictable outputs. This makes work faster, but it also makes workers more interchangeable. If outputs can be produced through templates, employers can hire cheaper labor to fill roles. A role that once required experience becomes a role that requires prompt usage and basic oversight. When skill is embedded in systems, the worker becomes replaceable. Replaceability cheapens labor. 8. Why augmentation can still mean lower wages. Many people believe augmentation means better jobs. AI helps workers, so workers should benefit. But augmentation often increases output without increasing worker power. If a worker can now produce twice as much, the company can keep the worker and demand more output. Keep pay the same and increase profit. Reduce headcount and maintain output. Lower the skill requirements and hire cheaper workers. Which option gets chosen depends on incentives. In most cases, organizations choose the option that increases profit and control. So augmentation can become a tool for intensifying work, not for raising wages. 9. Work does not disappear, it becomes more measurable. AI thrives on metrics. To automate or optimize, the system needs measurement. This encourages workplaces to quantify everything. Time to completion. Errors per hour. Sales per week. Customer satisfaction scores. Response speed. Output volume. When work becomes measurable, it becomes comparable. When it becomes comparable, it becomes competitive. Workers are ranked. Performance becomes a constant contest. This weakens solidarity and increases pressure. A worker under constant measurement has less ability to negotiate. They can be replaced by someone who scores slightly higher. This makes labor cheaper because workers are forced into competition with each other. 10. The rise of algorithmic management. AI cheapens work by changing who manages it. Instead of human managers making contextual judgments, AI systems evaluate performance through data. They schedule shifts, assign tasks, set targets, detect deviations, trigger warnings. This reduces discretion. Workers cannot appeal to context. They cannot negotiate with a dashboard. Work becomes compliance with a system. Compliance is easier to replace than judgment. And roles that require less judgment are paid less. 11. The edge case trap. A common pattern emerges after automation. AI handles easy tasks. Humans handle the rest. This sounds like humans keep the interesting work. But the reality is often worse. Humans are left with the most stressful work. The angry customers. The complex exceptions. The confusing failures. The emotionally charged cases. The ethical conflicts. The easy tasks were the ones that made the job manageable. When those disappear, what remains is harder, but not necessarily better paid. The job becomes more demanding. The worker becomes more exhausted. Yet the company may argue that because AI handles most volume, fewer workers are needed, which puts downward pressure on wages. This is cheapening through job intensification. 12. Why entry-level jobs disappear first. AI often hits entry-level roles hardest. Entry-level work often involves routine tasks. Drafting, summarizing, organizing, basic analysis, customer responses. AI can automate much of this. Companies hire fewer juniors. This creates a long-term problem. Entry-level roles are how people enter professions. If those roles shrink, the pipeline weakens. Fewer people gain experience. Fewer people advance. Competition for remaining roles increases. When competition increases, wages fall. So AI cheapens work by squeezing the bottom of career ladders. 13. The credential inflation effect. When many people compete for fewer good jobs, employers raise requirements. They ask for more experience, more certifications, more degrees. The job may not require those credentials, but the employer can demand them because applicants are plentiful. This makes entry harder. It also shifts risk to workers. Workers invest more in education to qualify. If wages do not rise, the return on that investment declines. Work becomes cheaper, not only in pay, but in the cost workers must personally carry to access it. 14. The GIGIFICATION of knowledge work. AI accelerates a trend toward fragmented work. Short contracts. Project-based tasks. Freelance gigs. Task marketplaces. When AI makes tasks easier to specify and evaluate, companies can break roles into pieces. Instead of hiring a full-time employee, they hire for tasks. Workers lose benefits, lose stability, lose bargaining power. The labor market becomes more like a platform. Work remains, but it becomes more precarious. Cheapening is not only about wage levels. It is about security. 15. Why remote work can increase competition. Remote work expands labor markets. Companies can hire globally. This can benefit workers in some regions. But it can also increase competition. If the labor pool becomes global, wages tend to move toward global averages for similar tasks. AI makes remote work easier by automating coordination, communication, translation, and documentation. The result is a larger competitive field for many roles. Competition pressures wages downward. Again, work remains. But it is priced differently. 16. The compression of the middle. Many labor markets have a strong middle. Roles that are stable, skilled, and paid reasonably. AI threatens the middle by automating routine cognitive tasks. Not all of them, but enough to reshape demand. High-skill roles remain, people who can design, lead, and handle complex judgment. Low-skill roles remain, physical and service work that is hard to automate fully. The middle thins. When the middle thins, inequality increases. And workers who once held stable middle roles may be pushed into lower-paid work or precarious gigs. That is cheapening across the economy. 17. The human-in-the-loop myth. Some people assume that if humans remain in the loop, jobs are protected. But being in the loop can mean being a low-paid monitor. Approving outputs. Correcting errors. Reviewing flagged cases. Labeling data. These roles can be repetitive, stressful, and poorly compensated. They exist because AI is imperfect. The human becomes a quality control layer. The work is necessary, but not valued. This is a key point. Work that exists because systems fail is rarely respected. It is treated as a cost, not a craft. 18. Why AI creates more work, but lower quality work. AI can increase total work volume. More content, messaging, analysis, and monitoring. But the quality of work changes. Workers spend more time managing systems. Less time doing meaningful tasks. More time fixing errors. Less time learning deep skills. Work becomes shallow. Fast. Metric-driven. This can feel like more work with less meaning. Cheapening is also a loss of dignity. 19. The new performance standard, speed. AI increases speed. Organizations begin to treat speed as normal. Faster responses and output. Shorter deadlines. This changes workplace culture. The worker is expected to keep pace with machine-assisted speed, even though the worker is still human. This creates stress and reduces quality. When speed becomes the standard, careful work is punished. Workers who prioritize accuracy may be outcompeted. In markets, speed often wins. In human life, speed has costs. AI pushes workplaces towards speed. That cheapens labor by turning it into output per hour rather than a human contribution. 20. Why wages do not rise even when productivity does. This is the heart of the episode. If AI makes work more productive, why not pay more? Because wages are a cost. And in competitive markets, companies try to minimize costs. Unless workers have leverage, productivity gains are captured as profit. AI increases productivity and reduces labor bargaining power simultaneously. That combination makes it especially likely that profits rise while wages stay flat. If workers cannot threaten to leave for better pay, employers do not raise pay. If automation is an alternative, workers have less leverage. That is why productivity does not translate into wages. 21. The role of ownership and policy. None of this is purely technical. It depends on ownership and policy. If AI systems are owned by corporations, gains flow upward. If workers have strong bargaining rights, gains can be shared. If profit sharing is common, workers benefit. If labor protections limit surveillance and deskilling, work quality remains higher. If antitrust prevents monopoly power, competition may benefit consumers and workers. If public systems invest in training and transitions, workers adapt with less pain. Without these structures, the default market outcome is cheapening. 22. How cheapening shows up in daily life. Cheapening is not always obvious. It appears as more pressure without more pay. Fewer entry-level openings. More short-term contracts. Higher expectations. Constant monitoring. More competition for stable roles. Deeper inequality across career paths. Workers feel it as anxiety. Not only fear of job loss. Fear of falling behind. Fear of being treated as replaceable. Fear of never reaching stability. AI intensifies these feelings because it changes how labor is valued. 23. What workers can do, realistically. This episode is not about blaming individuals. Cheapening is structural. Still, there are practical approaches. 1. Build skills that rely on judgment, relationships, and accountability. 2. Learn how to use AI tools strategically, not only mechanically. 3. Move toward roles that design systems rather than follow them. 4. Seek organizations that share gains, protect workers, and value autonomy. 5. Support policies that strengthen bargaining power and limit abusive monitoring. These are not guarantees, but they are ways to reduce vulnerability. 24. Core takeaway. AI will not eliminate work because humans still provide flexibility, accountability, and presence. But AI will cheapen work by reducing bargaining power, increasing replaceability, raising expectations, expanding monitoring, and fragmenting careers. The future is not a world with no jobs. It is a world where many jobs exist, but fewer feel secure, dignified, or fairly compensated. Whether that future becomes reality depends on how society governs AI, not on the technology alone. If this episode helped you understand why AI will not eliminate work but will cheapen it, like this video so more people can see it. Share it with someone who thinks the only risk is job loss. And subscribe to Uncovering Facts for deep, hype-free explanations of technology, power, work, and society. Next episode, why AI creates more control, not more freedom.